Thank you for downloading episode 358 of Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong. This week we have Maha leaving us out of Gaza, the tariff war of words, Mahomes Sr. getting rocked, manufacturing, more exceptions for certain residents, that was art, yo, and keeping meat real. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is my partner in this endeavor, County Commissioner Ken Poland.
Yeah, that just doesn't seem right. We had another county commissioner meeting this week. It was fun. It was interesting. I told them we needed to share more information to the public, which I think we struggled doing, and I had to end up making a motion to share a Facebook post. It was so strange. But the public gets their information off Facebook now. They don't get it off websites, and they sure don't come to most meetings, and they don't watch meetings on YouTube or anything like that. And I don't know. I just think government's better the more government shares.
Right.
At least people know what you're up to.
Great.
Yeah, it's just transparency. So when something does come down that's difficult, or you're making a hard decision or something you know is going to be controversial, they can look back and say, well, they've been transparent with us over the last year, so we get it, right? Or we understand, or we see why this has to happen. But it's like, if you never share anything, then when bad things happen, it's not even when bad things happen. It's just when things happen that's kind of different. People look at you and go, well, you're not sharing, and now you tell us all this bad information. So I don't know. It was good, but it just, you just got to share.
At best, 40 to 49% of people are going to disagree with you. But that's just the way it is. I mean, rarely do we see races go that are 80% unless it's just uncontested. But you have to make decisions that you think are right. Obviously, to take the public's input. But I've seen so many not necessarily in Paulding County, but I've watched a lot of video of county commissioner meetings where the commissioners are completely ignoring who's ever up there to talk. They're on their phone sending messages back and forth. And you can kind of see it when you see one person put their phone down, the next person pick it up and kind of smile and then type something back, and the other person picks their phone up like, yeah, we can tell you're texting. Like the person, whoever, that citizen who came up, that resident who's standing before you deserves the respect of at least listening. But a lot of times, school board members and commission members and council members go in with a closed mind. They don't go in with an open mind going, let me see what they have to say. Now, look, I don't agree with the throw the bums out sort of mentality. If you don't vote for this, I'm not voting for you again. That never gets anywhere. What does get did get me anywhere with me addressing the school board because they went ahead and opted out, but is making a sensible argument. Not if you do this, this is. I'm for or against this measure, and here's why. And without getting super emotional, and the more emotional and more people bang on the lectern and stuff like that, the more the commissioners or whichever board members are shut down.
Yeah,
they don't want to see that thing.
Yeah. No, we're having these public hearings on 581 though, and we've had nobody really show up yet. A couple of people have spoke. I know everybody's fired up about it around the state at the moment, but we've had nobody speak, and they're going to be mad I don't know if we're going to opt out or opt in. I don't know that yet. It takes a vote from the commissioners either way, so it's not like I'm just 1 out of 5 votes, but I know people are going to be upset if we opt out, but also no one's coming in or contacting us to even ask questions about why or why not, or to give their opinion. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Well, the answer is always the same. It's just never said. We want more money. And that's the sort of thing that, and then when I addressed the school board a couple weeks ago, that's what it came down to was, in fact, the superintendent mentioned Elon Musk's in his remarks. So I hopped on that. So you talked about Elon. Yeah, we need someone like Elon Musk to go through the budget with a red pen and start getting rid of all the crap. And then I gave him examples. Not that it mattered, but at least I think that was a more persuasive argument than saying, I can't afford it. This is BS. No, I think it's if you can come up with more compelling arguments, at the end of the day, did it matter in my case? No. Unless I wanted to run for school board. As we record, it's Valentine's Day, but as the show drops, it's President's Day. So love and POTUS.
I know. President's Day. Wow. He has made quite the, how many days is this? He's been in office almost a month now, or a little over a month.
February 20th will be a month.
I've never seen, they always talk about the first 100-day agenda, but wow, what a 100-day agenda. I mean, they are moving and shaking, and I've never seen so much going on. It's pretty amazing from a political perspective.
I was not happy with the last 4 years, but I think that gave Trump time to think. Because he saw the mistakes he made in his first administration. And they were glaring. He surrounded himself with the wrong people. This time he knew exactly what he wanted out of people. And whether or not all these picks, and we'll talk about one here in a minute, will make the impact that he thinks they will, who knows? But we talked before about his cabinet's revolving door. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. And I think the problem was getting bureaucrats that feel that they know better than the elected official, which in some cases that may be true, but not when it comes to budgets. And you got billionaires who've handled multi-billion-dollar corporations and their budgets. They're a little more qualified than some dude making $120,000 a year sitting in an office with no windows somewhere in D.C. So layoffs have begun.
I saw this 13. They're affecting everybody. I mean, they're affecting people all over the country, but this was close to home. It was CDC is losing nearly 1,300 probationary employees. Now, I don't know what probationary basically means. If they've been at the CDC for less than 2 years. So it sounds like when you get hired in, you're on a probationary period of 2 years, which is amazing. It's that long in government.
Well, the reason it is once they're there, 2 years plus 1 day, it's almost impossible to get rid of them. They're entrenched. But that's roughly
10% of the CDC's workforce. So it sounds like the CDC's got about 13,000 employees, 10% are probationary employees, and they are getting fired.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think we talked about this last week. I think most of these are what they considered what's the old fancy term during COVID where they said, if you're important, you got to come in. If you're important, you got to work. If you're not important, just stay home. So I don't think these are essential workers. And I don't mean to make light of the situation because these people do have a job. They're having to feed their families and all that kind of stuff. But this is just, these people are, says they're supposed to get 4 weeks of paid administrative leave when they get terminated. So, yeah.
Well, it's not the 8 months that other employees are being offered, but you know what? They're probationary. They don't have to give them the 4 weeks unless that's just part of the contract. Because, most people that I've fired, I didn't give them any severance. Get out. Don't go away mad, just go away. So, RFK sneaks in as HHS secretary.
Yeah, I know. How about that? What was the vote total? Only one Republican voted against, right? And it was Mitch McConnell?
I don't know what is going on with the turtle in the suit up there.
But it was a 52-48 vote, so they don't need McConnell. They can actually lose 3 Republican votes. I didn't realize this. So they've got 53 Republicans plus JD plus the VP if they tie. But yeah, if Kennedy got by 52-48, I couldn't believe all Democrats voted against him. I figured that the guy from Pennsylvania that we talk about quite often, Fetterman. I thought Fetterman might vote for him or somebody else. But hey, it doesn't matter at this point. Robert F. Kennedy is the Health and Human Services Secretary.
These senators get gotten to. They say, look, he's getting through. If you go on the record voting for Kennedy, anything you put your name on is dead. And especially for senators, I mean, this presidency is only 4 years. Fetterman has 2 years beyond that. That if they do get a Democrat in, that he probably want to be part of the caucus to get things done. But he's going to be shut out in the cold. And that's very sad that you can't just put 100 people in a room and every one of the 100 vote his or her conscience. Instead, you have to worry about my standing within the party. Am I going to lose whatever committees I'm on? Which is absurd. But Mitch McConnell doesn't care. He's on his way out. He can't finish a sentence. He's falling down. I mean, he's
in there for another 2? Is he in there for another 2 years or 4 years?
I'd have to look it up. I don't know.
It sounds like McConnell got mad because he considers Robert Kennedy a vaccine skeptic, and Mitch McConnell had polio, and I think that was his. And look, if that was his reason for voting against him, it's hard to argue with that because we know polio was defeated by.
Even after Kennedy said he supports the polio vaccine and what good it's done, and he said all he said is he wants more testing.
I know, but I don't. If I was somebody that had polio before and Kennedy said that, I don't know if I'd have voted for him either. So, but I don't think that's why McConnell did. I think he's just a bitter old guy, and that's what Trump called him. Trump blasted McConnell as a quote bitter guy for voting against Kennedy.
But it's not the only one he voted against.
Yeah, he voted against Tulsi Gabbard also.
Which honestly, having someone in charge of our intelligence agencies that is against domestic spying.
Yep.
Go get him.
No, he voted against Tulsi Gabbard, Robert F. Kennedy, and he also voted against Pete Hegseth. And if you remember, Pete was the one that the VP had to come in and cast the deciding vote for. So,
Pete's killing it right now.
Yeah, and it actually looked like I saw that Kash Patel got through the subcommittee basically this week. So he's going to be up on the floor for a full vote next week. And I suspect he gets through also. And I suspect that Mitch McConnell will vote against him also.
You can't mess with Kash's qualifications. The same thing I said about Pam Bondi. You can't mess with her qualifications.
Yep.
You can say you don't like her opinions, or anything else. There's two things you can't say about her. You can't say she's ugly, and you can't say she's not qualified. But yeah, the RFK thing, it's going to be interesting how that plays out. Also, I think some of these hearings give a little too much credit to what secretaries within the cabinet can do. Again, let's go back to Hegseth. He's out working. He's doing PT with the troops. He said we're going to be war fighters again. We exist to kill people and break things, and that's what the Department of Defense does. We're get rid of the DEI stuff. I saw he is naming Bragg from Liberty, which, man, I thought it was stupid to change him in the first place. And half the forts that I see online now, I have to go and Google. Like, where the hell's Fort Eisenhower? We don't have a Fort Eisenhower.
Yeah, I'm not big on changing it back just because it costs a bunch of money.
Well, I'm with you on that. And
I wouldn't have changed it the first time like you. I wouldn't have changed it the first time. And then, now it's like...
It's part of campaign promise stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Why name it after people? Just call Fort Bragg Fort Jumpy Jump because it's home of the Airborne and Special Operations. Call Fort Benning, which is now Fort Moore, Fort Walkie Shoot because it's home of the infantry. I just don't care. You don't need to go back and forth every 4 years with what you're naming stuff. It's just stupid. Based on something that was 150 years ago. All right, so Arab nations are stepping up to rebuild Gaza. This is awesome.
I know, finally. Everybody's making fun of Trump last week, but I think what Trump does is he lays out some plan and people figure out what to do after that, right? He breaks the glass and people figure out how to put it back together.
Now, look, when you go back in the history of Israel and Gaza, when you go back to the 50s, late 40s, early 50s, no one wants the Palestinians, those who call themselves Palestinians. Nobody wants them. Jordan doesn't want them. Egypt doesn't want them. Because they're not They're not a stable force. Syria doesn't want them. Nobody wants these Palestinians. So basically, when Trump said, "Hey, we're going to show up, we're going to throw them all in your countries, you deal with them, and we're going to turn Gaza into a resort town," and then Egypt's like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 okay, no, you leave them there, we'll take care of it." And look, the Arab nations have the money to do it. I mean, you're talking about a lot of these countries are smaller than the state of Georgia and had 3 times as rich. They have the money. I mean, hell, I think in United Arab Emirates, it's one of those countries that has so much oil money, it's illegal for anybody who's a natural-born citizen to work. They bring in their labor for everything else. They all get paid oil money. So it's not these sheiks and all these folks. The House of Saud has plenty of money to take care of that, and pushing it back on them. And look, Egypt does not want to go to war with Israel. They've already been through down that road before.
No, they definitely don't want to do that.
Syria does not want an all-out war with Israel. I mean, they might let Hezbollah toss some rockets every once in a while, but they do not want any piece of Israel. Any one country, and they also don't want any piece of us. And I'm not pounding my red, white, and blue chest here, but none of those countries want any piece. They saw what happens when we decide to go in and just mess stuff up.
Where are these people living now? Because I've seen all the photos. Where are these 2 million Palestinians living over that way? I mean, are they just huddled up in?
You're only seeing the photos that are provided. So
yeah,
a lot of them are in camps.
Well, and we're going to land on the moon next week too. Did you see that?
No,
for the first time. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I get you. But I mean, I've seen the displaced stuff. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's very sad for those who weren't involved, but understand, just like we say here, elections have consequences. When they elected who they wanted to run Gaza, that's what they got, was they wanted outright war in Israel. Look, the average Palestinian only gets educated with what they hear from Hamas. That's it. That's all the education you get, is what they provide. So they keep telling you that these evil Jews next door are, all they want to do is kill you, and we're the only ones keeping you safe. That's what they get. All right, reciprocal tariffs.
Yeah, I saw this last Friday morning. I always watch CNBC in the morning, which I love watching those guys in the morning. They're really good, not to be confused with MSNBC or any of the other CNN or any other fake news stories. But they were talking about these reciprocity tariffs, and I didn't quite understand it. So tell me what's going on here, and I'll tell you what I think I heard.
All right, so if a country slaps a 25% tariff on imports from our country, so using as an example, India has super high tariffs bringing anything into India. American companies can't compete. So if they slap a 25% tariff on us, we're going to slap a 25% tariff on their goods. Now, how is this good? How is it bad? Good is, I think it's a threat and we'll work it out. Bad, because India produces a lot of stuff that we use every day, within our computer chips. And I mean, hell, India is the world's tech support. Same thing goes for Europe. You cannot afford to buy a vehicle, an American vehicle in Europe. Say it costs 50 grand here. In Europe, it's 80 grand because of the tariffs. But there's a very small tariff if you want to buy a BMW, Mercedes, or something else here. So it's sort of leveling the playing field that if you're going to slap tariffs on our goods, we're going to slap them on you.
Yeah, and some of the things I heard this morning were like, well, it's interesting. Some of the things it's just, I mean, they're talking about coffee. I mean, I guess it depends on what the good is. I think the lady I heard on CNBC was just saying they need to be very much targeted tariffs versus like we're just going to slap a tariff on everything coming out of India, for example. Or do we say we're going to slap a tariff off of something coming out of India that there's a higher tariff on than what we also can produce in the U.S.? That was kind of the point that they were trying to make on CNBC on Friday.
It's not a horrible point to make. And I don't think Trump is as obtuse as I know he's not as the media makes him seem. He knows what he's doing. Any negotiation, you start as far to your side as you can, and they start as far to their side as they can, and then you start hashing out where in the middle we're going to meet. That's just negotiation. Canada right now is losing their minds. They're collectively losing their mind. I know they're running ads for doing business in Canada on TV, on Fox News all the time. Your neighbor to the north, how good we've been to you. And look, the average Canadian is, outside of the Frenchies, of course, very nice, very, very much that we have a shared history. I thought it was nice when I was in Niagara Falls on the Canadian side for 4th of July. They turned their side of the falls red, white, and blue. So it's a kinship, not necessarily brothers, but a kinship that we have with them. But it doesn't mean that you can just like if your cousins, if you try to hit you with a bottle charge to bring a bottle of wine over to his house for dinner, like what?
It's like I'm making my own wine in my backyard, so don't bring wine over. I'm going to charge you for it.
Right.
That's a good way. See, I always like you arguing it in terms that I can understand. Like, I make some crappy beer at my house, and if you're bringing some Coors Light over, I'm going to charge you for bringing your Coors Light crappy beer over.
Yeah, but it's exactly that. And the problem that we have with tariffs is it's not all 1-to-1. All right, so we'll take the scrap metal we bring in and sell it often to China. It's going to be someplace that doesn't have an EPA because the smelts are not exactly the most environmentally friendly things in the world. So we'll take a bunch of scrap copper. I'm using my industry because it's what I know. We send it off to China. They smelt it down, turn it back into components or copper lines, whatever we need. So they slap a tariff on what they're buying from us, which is the scrap, and then we slap a tariff on the tubing they sell back to us. But if it goes, then it has to turn into a machine, and they would take that machine and sell it around the world. So take, I don't know, train organization. They'll take it, they'll buy a bunch of components from overseas and then assemble it here and then turn around and sell that machine back overseas a lot of times. And so so one air conditioner, you may have 10 tariffs in because you've got components from all different countries to slap together. And then when you go and sell it to, I don't know, Costa Rica, whatever, and you go and sell that equipment down there, there's another tariff that goes on it. So if the whole world wants to drop tariffs completely, fine. If the whole world wants to charge tariffs and have our manufacturers, kind of under their thumb, because that's what happens is they're not trying to make more money. What they're trying to do is keep the manufacturers away from their industry so their industries do better, which they can tax. It's why you hop in a cab in Europe and you're sitting in a Mercedes. You would never buy a Mercedes in the United States as a cab, but in most places in Europe, especially Germany where Mercedes is, Daimler Chrysler's headquartered, it's that Mercedes is cheaper than buying a Ford Taurus. All right, so this was I think this was from Eric, wasn't it?
Yeah, I saw this. I saw this after the Super Bowl also. John
Rocker, who I like, I liked him on the field, was a fairly blunt instrument. Not all that media savvy and all that stuff. Apparently he and Pat Mahomes Sr., this is Patrick Mahomes' father, got into it in a bar in New Orleans during the Super Bowl celebrations. I watched the video, didn't see what started it, but apparently there's a beef between Rocker and Mahomes that goes back years, probably decades, because they both played in Major League Baseball. But the one comment I put out there was, there's no way that sober Dave wants to take on a drunken John Rocker. Dude's like 6'5".
Hell no, he looks like a biter too. I mean, he's like kicking you where you shouldn't or hitting you where you shouldn't and pulling hair and Yeah, nobody wants to fight John Rocker. No chance.
And I thought Pat Mahomes was a lot older, but I think I haven't looked at their ages, but after
Well,
looking at him,
how old is Junior? I mean, he's not that old, is he?
he's in his 20s. I mean, he's married.
20s. So, I mean, Pat Mahomes could be 55, somewhere in that neighborhood, 50. Could have had him really early, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It happens, especially when you're an athlete. I mean, you have, a lot of opportunities to be around members of the opposite sex or same sex if that's what you're into, but that typically doesn't result in offspring. But Dave Portnoy, owner of Barstool Sports, and Dave, I love Dave Portnoy.
I do too.
But
he's like a media just celebrity. He knows how to make money. I mean, it's truly amazing.
Yeah, and the stuff he did, especially with pizza reviews during COVID and saved family restaurants, fantastic. The work he does with rescue dogs, fantastic. Love his two dogs who have their own like Twitter accounts, Peaches and Pete. Love them, but this starts to make me think that this is some BS because like within days of it happening, Portnoy says he's got a contract written for Rocker and Mahomes to square off in the ring.
I saw that. It's sometime in April too, right?
Yeah, that's no time to train.
Yeah, he's calling it the Beef on Bourbon Street and announced it will headline the Rough and Rowdy's card on April 18th. So yeah, I'm sort of thinking this whole thing was made up at this point. It's 2 months from when the show drops. They happen to get in a fight 2 weeks before. Yeah, this seems very suspicious.
Yeah, look, there's a couple things that go into stepping in the ring or octagon or anything like that. I'm a pretty good brawler.
Yeah, I mean, you got
I used to be
gotta
anyway.
be in great shape to do this stuff. Maybe they don't train. Maybe they go in for just a couple rounds and that's it. Though.
But yeah, that's the thing, man. Is the when you're in the ring, yes, you can keep running away. You can do the Manny Pacquiao sort of thing where you're not going to catch him, but he just works out harder than you do, and it's just going to exhaust you until you can't lift your gloves anymore. I think even having it cheapens what professional athletes do when it comes to combat sports.
Yep.
And martial arts in general, is these guys trained for years on what it's like to be choked, in MMA, what it's like to be choked while you're trying to get the upper hand. You don't just give up. And for two guys to say in a month and a half, I'll meet you, or in 2 months, I'll meet you, man. Unless that's what makes me think this is BS. Is unless they've been training secretly on the side. All this it just smacks of the Tyson fight.
Yeah, no, it does. So who wins this? I think John Rocker's he's got to win this because he's just so big, and in something that they don't train for. I mean, the biggest guy is going to just probably knock out the smaller guy.
I don't know what Rocker's endurance is. That's the thing is, if Mahomes can stay away from if he takes a solid right to the jaw, because I think Rocker's right-handed. If he takes a solid right to the jaw, yeah, it's going to be a short fight.
Yep.
But if he can just tire Rocker out, and
it could be a different story.
Yeah, and just have him punch himself out. It's the old cartoon where I can't remember. I think it was whatever. Elmer Fudd keeps missing Bugs Bunny, and then gets worn out, and Bugs just goes bink and knocks him down.
Yep.
So I don't know what will happen in April. I'm certainly not putting any money on it, especially after the Tyson fight. Everything we saw in the Tyson fight is all the video we saw. I was like, oh my God, he's got it. He's still got it. If he connects just once. What they didn't show is that after that 45-second clip, he had to go sit down, get oxygen, and drink water.
Yep.
I don't know. When I first saw it, I'm like, I was kind of had something on TV, so I was just watching it. I'm like, Mahomes Senior. I wonder who's this skinny dude that thinks he's getting? I'm like, oh, he's actually an athlete. Okay, this is starting to make sense.
Nice.
All right, manufacturing is sexist. Oh, this was in the running for the mule. I swear to you. So this is Jan Schawowski. I don't know, whatever.
I can't even say her last name. Yep, Jan Skowalowski or something. She's a Democrat from Illinois. So that
I had a hard
explains
enough
a
time
lot.
pronouncing Szilagyi the first like 4 shows I did.
Yeah, Jessica finally told me how to pronounce her name, or I saw her. I saw her actually do it for somebody online. It's like, yeah, it was funny how she said to pronounce her last name, but we got it now.
Well, Matt told me, Matt Lowe, he's like, I said, how do you pronounce? I said, do it for me phonetically. He's like, it's like sausage, Szilagyi. I'm like, okay, that's okay.
Yeah, and speaking of Matt Lowe, real quick, I'm going to take us on a detour. His Facebook post last week made me laugh so hard. We probably can't share it on the air, but yeah, it was pretty funny. It was the gray sweatpants Facebook post of his. So Matt, if you're listening to this, I got a good kick out of that.
Matt comes up with them every once in a while. He probably copied and pasted from somebody who's actually funny.
I'm sure he did.
Dude, when he was first on the show, when the show was first getting going, I gave Matt some one-liners to use, and he flubbed every one of them. I think he's too used to doing things on the computer to actually be funny in person. Now, Matt Lowe's one of my best friends, and yes, he's funny. But yeah, he'll think if he'll just be sitting in his chair at home, like, and think of that, huh, and type it out. Yeah, Matt's a funny dude. All right, so this representative, and this is a congresswoman. This is not a state rep. She was actually in a committee hearing saying that young people are telling her, no, they're not. First of all, her idea of young people is anybody under 70. That women don't get into manufacturing because manufacturing sounds sexist.
Yep. Never thought of that. Yeah, she said it. She said that's why women don't get in manufacturing, because it sounds like a guy.
Women don't tend to get into physical jobs as readily as men do.
What does she want to call it? Just facturing or something? Or
I don't know.
You facturing?
Does she not understand it's Latin for hands? In Spanish, manos, las manos are your hands. Why it's female and a male hand, you can figure that out yourself. I'm not going to say anything. But manos is, so mano a mano is not man to man. It's hand to hand combat. We'll take care of this mano a mano. Yep. That goes directly back to Latin. So manufacturing is creating something by hand.
So you tell me it has nothing to do with like man versus woman?
No.
God, what an idiot.
No. I mean, it's not even close to the word for man. Man in Spanish is hombre, which we'll talk about in a minute. More foreshadowing. At this point, this is a rich old white Democrat from Illinois who's coming up with any reason why. I don't even know what the context was.
Yeah, but then a Republican from Colorado said it. Who was also in Colorado said, or this is a Republican from Colorado said, let's lead the way and bring jobs back to America. Oh, he actually was making fun of her. So he said, sorry for Gabe Evans, you're actually fighting the fight. But he said, let's lead the way and bring jobs back to America. Democrats, manufacturing is a sexist term against women. So Gabe Evans from Colorado was making fun of the Democrat from Illinois.
As he should.
Everybody should be making fun, which is what we're doing.
That's the best way to eviscerate anybody politically. It's not to call them Hitler.
Yep.
Not to call them Stalin. Not to call them Marx. Is to make fun of them. Is to bring humor. When you insult somebody in the political arena so well that the subject has to laugh at what you said, that is well done politics.
Oh, no doubt.
Because that'll even get people from her caucus to snicker. Like, yeah, that was pretty stupid. You don't say, Congresswoman, that's the dumbest thing I've heard today. No, but you say it something some funny way. It's if you want to get more women into manual labor, again, that's where manual comes from, by hand. Manual labor, fine. You have more STEM programs, but you tend to find women that gravitate towards other careers. It doesn't mean we don't have women welders. We absolutely do. We have women in my industry, HVAC, even though you wouldn't catch my wife. Actually, she would have to be dead to be caught in a crawl space somewhere.
No, but it's what they've talked about with even Pete Hegseth with women in combat positions. I mean, look, men and women are different. I think we know this. Democrats don't want to say men and women are different. We're different, and women do things a lot better than I do things. And then I do some things a lot better than my wife does things, and vice versa. I don't understand why we're at the point and this, in 2025 where we can't just admit that's the case.
And look, the way you get to where I am in life, in my industry, is you work in those horrible conditions. Before you get to be like me, like, yeah, I'm hiring a guy to carry the heavy piece of equipment into your attic. Before you get to that point, you just don't walk into it. You're the guy carrying the equipment to the attic. You're the guy spending 12 hours in a 150-degree attic, coming out every hour, 15 minutes to drink water, so you don't die. But that's what we find is women don't tend to gravitate towards that. It doesn't mean they're not welcome. Hell, I went through HVAC school with a woman who was a contractor. I think she was in Michigan, and she was moving down to Georgia, so she needed to get a Georgia license. But yeah, she's a technician. Apparently, from what I remember talking to her, she's very, very knowledgeable and a really good technician at it. But it's just the reason she sticks out in my mind is it's not something we typically see. My salesperson at Train is a woman, and she has a contractor's license. She grew up in an HVAC family. She can walk the walk. And again, in our industry, that's rarity. Now, should it be rare to say that women can't be? And I say women can't be. That women shouldn't look at other STEM things like medicine. Women should not be relegated to being nurses or CNAs or anything else. If they can go be doctors. They don't have to be teachers. They can be college professors. They don't have to be relegated to these subjugated roles. And my background after I got out of the Army was banking, and it was a rarity in branch banking to see a man. So what does the man get to do? We get to pick up the heavy boxes of change when it comes in and stuff like that in retail banking. But that's completely flipped. But when I got on the corporate side of banking, I did start to see a shift where there were a lot more jackets and ties in the meetings and a lot fewer dresses. So is that right? No, absolutely not. But to point out manufacturing, hell, Laverne and Shirley, we're in a beer bottling plant. I mean, it's women in the trades goes back a long way. It just doesn't. Rosie the Riveter. It doesn't mean that they can't do it. It's just that most women don't gravitate towards that.
Yeah, they just don't choose that as a career. I mean, yeah, they just don't. I mean, that's nothing wrong with that. No one's saying it's wrong. It's just
no, I'm not saying it's wrong either. I'm just saying there's nothing wrong with that.
No, they just don't gravitate towards manufacturing.
And there's nothing wrong with a dude being a hairdresser or a dude being a secretary. Nothing wrong with that.
Not at all. Nope.
I know the airlines fought that for years with, as my father used to call them, ball-bearing attendants, male flight attendants. That was more of a struggle getting men as flight attendants than it was getting women in the cockpit.
Yep.
No, I'm not making a joke about the cockpit. But there was, speaking of this, there was a motion to stop calling it a cockpit and start calling it a flight deck. Again, forgetting the origins of the word, cockpit meant it looks like the ring. It was about the size of the ring that they would fight roosters in. That's why it was called a cockpit, not because it was occupied by men. These people are just stupid. They don't think. You have Google now. Google the stuff and go, oh, that's where it comes from. That's the was the etymology of the word. All right. Speaking of men getting richer, no state tax on NIL money? ?
I know. So Senator Brandon Beach, who has been a state senator for quite a while, he's got, I think, aspirations to run for higher office in Georgia. He said he had dinner with Nick Saban a couple weeks ago. And Nick Saban said, look, when these high school commits are coming out of high school and they're trying to figure out where they want to go, these are like the top cream of the crop, right? They're getting this big NIL money. He said Georgia is the only state around that doesn't have a state income tax, which I think there's a greater point to this whole conversation. But he said, look, this is Nick Saban saying Georgia's almost got state income tax. Alabama doesn't. Tennessee doesn't. Florida doesn't. South Carolina doesn't have state income tax. So he said when these kids sign, it would be really good if they didn't have to pay state tax on their NIL earnings. So instead of Brandon Beach thinking, I'm not picking on the senator, but instead of Senator Beach going, well, hell, why don't we just get rid of state income tax for everybody in Georgia, like these other surrounding counties does, he just runs off and introduces a bill to not have these college kids that are just going into college pay income tax, state income tax on their NIL earnings.
All right. So here's the deal with that. If I'm going to Kennesaw State, UGA, Griffin Tech, whatever, and I go get a part-time job, or hell, a lot of times a full-time job to afford to go to school, I'm paying taxes on it. And we're talking about state income taxes. We're talking about 5% here. I have to pay tax. I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to school. I'm doing the best and I'm getting paid for my not my name and likeness, image and likeness, but I'm getting paid, so I'm not exempt. And to your point, a lot of these NIL kids, they're getting paid millions.
Yep.
And the question is always to me, when you pay somebody, can I write off what I give you? And that's generally the rule with tax deductions or with things that are taxed. If I pay you, I don't know, $10,000 for something that you do, do I write that off my taxes? And you know what? As a company, I do. So what happens is that $10,000 tax burden it gets transferred. I'm not saying it's right. I hate the income. I hate all taxes, period. But despise income tax because it kills productivity. But that's generally the rule. So if these were gifts, which they're not, NILs are not usually just some booster writing $1 million check to a kid. It's usually Bob's car lot or something like that pays these kids, and they write that off as an expense. So when you transfer that wealth, that money over to somebody else, yes, they get slapped with income tax on it. But I agree with you that if he really wanted to make a statement, let's not make the state of Georgia competitive for college athletics. Let's
make it competitive for everybody, right?
Let's make it competitive to get the best talent, not just for our football teams, but for our manufacturers, for our companies. Let's be able to recruit the best and the brightest.
That's where. And look, I think he stepped in here without thinking, right? Because he's making a point to get rid of state income tax for everybody. And I don't know if I think what ends up happening is he just had this lunch with Saban, and he said, hey, I'm going to do this thing that's going to get my name in a newspaper, blah, 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 a bunch of notoriety. And he just proved the point that Georgia needs to get rid of the state income tax.
And look, if these boosters want to be competitive, and look, if Florida's offering $1 million, offer them $1,500,000, whatever. What if say we'll eat the difference? So but the idea of paying for the name, image, and likeness is to sell more of whatever their product is. It's not just to give money to whatever school. Yeah, I don't even know who the kid is, but even at Georgia Southern, you have kids that are on billboards that are getting NILs.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, I think anybody who listens to the show agrees. Get rid of. Let's start state by state.
Get rid of the state income tax. Yeah, that's the thing to do. Not exclude a bunch of, and not everyone is NIL kids or millionaires. But why would I want to give some kid getting $10 million in Georgia to not pay state income tax when the waitress down at TGI Fridays has to pay state income tax? And that's why this bill is so short-sighted.
Do you guys still have Fridays down there?
I don't know. I just made that up.
We know where your Valentine's dinner is going to be. Go ahead and get some riblets, honey. It's a special night. I think that's Applebee's. I don't know. All right, rap lyrics. Are they admissible at trial?
Yeah, this is another. We're talking a lot about state or bills that come up in the state legislature this time around. But this is a bill by Casey Carpenter out of, he's a Republican from Dalton. that has introduced a bill that says any type of rap lyrics should not be admissible in court. And this all stems from Jeffrey Williams, who was the rapper known as Young Thug. I had never listened to the daggum song, but it sounded like he confessed in his rap lyrics. And Fannie Willis used those in court in August, back in a couple of years ago. So what Casey is saying, or Representative Carpenter is saying, is there's a lot of artistic expression coming out here. And if a rapper makes a song, then that song should not be admissible in court because free speech, I guess.
You have free speech, and it's, in my mind, just about absolute. However, if I go out of the town corner and say, I just killed a man, started gun up to his head, pulled his trigger, now he's dead. You know that's art. If I stand on the corner and I say I killed Ken Poland with a Glock 43X 9mm with night sights in the back of the head, you might want to investigate that, because when you start talking about this being inadmissible at trial, you also start getting into the idea of fruit of a poison tree. So if the tip comes off of something that's inadmissible, that could screw the whole case. That's a bigger issue. I think from what I'm reading, it's a trash bill. It's not going to get through. It's just a way of needling somebody's fanny. Because I'm with it to a certain degree that no, Johnny Cash did not actually kill a man in Reno just to watch him die. I also don't believe he was born, with the name Sue. It's art.
It is art, but you also can't admit to a murder, I don't think, which is what this guy did.
A specific murder, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what this cat did. So
think
that's his stupidity, right?
OJ, and say the Nicole Brown case was still open. Everybody suspects him, but he hasn't been indicted. Then he goes there and writes a book about killing your ex-wife, and all the details line up. You're gonna look into that. Whether or not it's artistic expression, that's left up to the jury. That's why we have a jury.
Yep.
You can't get 12 people to agree on what to have for lunch.
I agree.
So I don't think this needs to be a law. I think these laws that come out.
I just think people
shouldn't.
I think people shouldn't make a rap song after they kill somebody about it. Maybe that's the better answer to this.
Or not kill people.
Yeah, I mean, but don't kill people, and then if you do kill somebody, don't rap about it, right?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is Ken's hot take. Don't murder.
Yeah, don't kill somebody, but if you do kill somebody, don't confess it in a rap lyric. And then why is Casey Carpenter, who is a Republican from Dalton, Georgia, which is the carpet mill of the world, right? And in North Georgia, why does he give two blank about some rapper in Atlanta? That's another great question, right? Why does he care? This is the same Casey Carpenter that also says illegal aliens in the state of Georgia should be able to get HOPE, the HOPE scholarship, and take money out of your pocket so illegals can go to college.
He's talking to his constituents, and I'm not talking about
I get it. He's talking to his constituents for the HOPE.
Yeah, but he's not talking about his constituents. He's talking to people that own the carpet mills.
I agree. Yeah, I totally agree on that one. But they also are not voting, or they're not supposed to be voting. But why is he worried about Young Thug? Is another thing, right? I don't get that.
I don't know. I don't know if Casey is like down, yo.
He's on a committee around.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about he goes on the weekend and he's got his gold chains on and looks around, puts his grill in.
Casey is the chairman for the and this is where Speaker Ralston did this so he could keep everybody in line at the Capitol. All the Republicans, they created like 56 or 57 different committees. And, when you're a committee chairman, you get a bunch of you get increased pay, you get unlimited per diems. You get a fancy badge that says you're chairman. So Casey's the chairman of
a better office.
better office, but Casey's the chairman of like arts and entertainment or something in Georgia. So I guess he feels like this falls up under his purview to protect the young thugs of the world.
The young thugs of the world. This is a good time to remind you that these are our opinions and not those of anyone not on the show or any respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. Also, you can find other episodes and relevant stories over thegeorgiavirtue.com. All right. Somebody tell this kid to shut up for a while. This is Theodore Hamby. He's citing Bad Hombres.
What was the background here? There's some background to this.
Well, the Bad Hombres
this story, though.
The Bad Hombres comment came from Trump. So that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to invoke Trump and not doing it well. He's a councilman for Guyton. He's the one who said he wouldn't, but voted himself a permanent retirement at 20-something years old or whatever. All right, so there's a program with ICE for municipalities, and what it does is it trains up, for the most part, jail staff how to identify illegals and what to do with them, so they can coordinate with ICE to get people who are here illegally, who got caught up in whatever, whether it's a DUI or whatever, and handle that within the jail to facilitate the program with ICE. Guyton doesn't have a jail. They have a police force. I'm not even sure Guyton should exist as a city. It should just be unincorporated Guyton, but I digress. So what he's wanting to do is spend a bunch of money. It's known as the 287G program, and to detain and deport undocumented immigrants, which truthfully is illegal immigrants. They detain temporarily. They don't deport. They don't detain for any more than it takes to get someone arrested and get them to the county jail because they don't have a jail. Maybe, not that they would do this, city of Atlanta would qualify this as a city. But I don't even know if does the city run its own jail still, or is it Fulton County? I think it's Fulton County. I think the jail is Fulton County. But it doesn't apply to his municipality. He's trying to grab onto to Trump's coattails, and they're just not there for him.
But there's a little bit more background to this. I think this was a reaction to, he wanted to reclassify Guyton's cannabis ordinance. So basically they wanted to say cannabis is not, I guess, illegal at this point, right? So a majority of the council supports reclassifying cannabis throughout the city limits, but they have some constituents that showed up and expressed their desire for a town hall on this matter. So I think what happened is he couldn't get through the cannabis reclassification. So then he came out, because that looked bad on him, and then he came out and said, by the way, this is what we should do, which is what you're talking about, right? So kind of to save face, we went from cannabis to we need to join forces on the illegal alien stuff. So it was, try to make that connection.
I don't know. I don't even know how many police officers Guyton has.
Not many. And I put in the outline, they've only got, it's only, I forget how many people are in Guyton. It's not a lot, but in Guyton, only 93% identified as Hispanic or Latino.
93 people,
4%.
individuals, 4%, yeah.
Yeah, so this is not a problem in the town of Guyton.
It's not. Plus, even if he did reclassify weed to being whatever, a ticket or a warning or whatever, it wouldn't apply except if the 5 people that work for the Guyton Police Department pulled him over, because it's still illegal in the county, in the state. So Guyton is about as big as a spit cup. So even if their 5 officers are directed to just kind of throw out weed or decriminalize it or just give a citation, whatever, it wouldn't matter because 90% of the enforcement is being done by the county anyway.
Yeah, right.
So just keep your thoughts Theodore, I'm not saying you're a bad kid. Keep your thoughts to yourself for a little while. Go vote up and down, smile, shake hands, show up at ribbon cuttings, do all the stuff that a city councilman does, except stop talking for a little while. And that's the best political advice I can give a lot of people. A lot of these politicians, they get into a hole and they keep digging. All right. More stuff from this steakhouse. I say meat. State House. No fake meat for you.
Yeah, I thought this was a good way to wrap up this week. It's we actually debated this back in 2019. So, if you go into the grocery store and you see your hamburger meat on the aisle and you see there's the fake meat, right? It's called Beyond Meat or, all the different names. I've never bought any, but I've seen it before. So there's this whole debate going on. It's not just in Georgia, but it's basically how do you label that meat? And should that fake meat be able to say it's Beyond Meat, or should they have some other type of label on the meat? And should you even be able to put it in the same spot as meat? And take it a step further, there's people that don't even want the fake meat to be grown in Georgia. Now, I'll let you comment on this in just a second, but the funniest thing about this is when we debated this bill back in 2019, Scott Turner, who was a representative then, said, okay, so if we're going to get rid of Beyond Meat, calling itself Beyond Meat, what do we do with Cadbury eggs because they're not eggs? And what do we do with the chicken of the sea since tuna is not chicken? So how far are we willing to take this in regard to the correct labeling of foods?
And I think that was Jessica Simpson. We talked about this before. I think it was Jessica Simpson who had that reality show, and it was an argument: is it chicken or is it tuna?
Right, exactly.
So here's the deal: a lot of it has to be refrigerated. And look, I've had fake meat before. I've had Boca burgers, and honestly, for me, who when I have the opportunity to stay within Paulding County and work, I'll run home for lunch. Gives me a chance to kick my work boots off for an hour, and I'll keep frozen Beyond Beef crumbles in the obviously in the freezer, and dump it and make myself a taco salad with it, or throw a couple patties in the frying pan while I go run to the restroom and make myself some tea, and it's not a reasonable facsimile for meat, but it's fine. But they also don't sell Boca burgers in the meat section. They sell it with other meatless things. I don't think anybody at this point is looking at Beyond Beef and thinking it's beef. Now, if it had really small printing Beyond, it said beef on it, okay, that could be false advertising. But we already have laws against that. I'm an omnivore and lean heavily on the carnivore part. Hell, for dinner for Thanksgiving. It is kind of Thanksgiving. Never mind. For Valentine's Day is steak, lobster, baked potato, and creme brulee. I mean, the potato is very, very small. Yeah, the majority of it's going to be meat. I love meat, but but I've also had imitation crab meat, which is still meat. It's actually Alaskan pollock, but the state cannot move easily. They are very cumbersome, or encumbered, I should say. They're very well encumbered. So any companies, by the time this even gets signed into law, and obviously before it becomes law, which would be either July or January, these companies have already figured out a way around to rename their stuff.
Yeah, right. So
then they'll be coming back next year going, well, we need to tweak this law because it missed this loophole. As much as I dislike having a bunch of lawyers up there making laws, I also appreciate the idea of having some lawyers up there and they'll tell you, no, this is a huge can of worms. You don't want to open this one.
It is, and that's where we ended up back in 2019 with that concept. This is a huge deal to start going in and reclassifying or making companies that are outside of Georgia reclassify labels on food that they sell in Georgia because chicken at the sea is not made in Georgia. So what if Georgia passes a law that says you can't call tuna chicken any longer?
And who is it that makes that? Is it Star-Kissed tuna?
Yeah, out of Star-Kissed, I guess. But that was where we sort of got to at the end of the day is it just, we got to, it just doesn't make any sense to do that.
And look, it won't do anything. If I don't know the difference between almond milk and cow's milk, that's on me. And look, I've done stupid stuff like flying through the store and get the wrong % milk or grab vegan cheese as I'm just looking for anything that's the cheese and grabbing it and running out of the store. Yeah, I've done stupid stuff like that. That's on me for not reading what's there. Like if you're buying ground beef at Publix, there should say ingredients, beef. That's it. Actually, it says beef, water, and sodium, and whatever else they put in it to keep it red.
Exactly.
But you can see it there. But if you pick up something and it's like in a bunch of like sulfates and monoglycine or whatever things that I can't pronounce because I'm not a scientist, I'm just a stupid AC guy, and a bunch of that on there, you can be relatively sure that's not meat. And again, there's nothing wrong with well, I say there's nothing wrong in my mind about eating a fake chicken patty or whatever. I did hear I don't know if it may have been Rogan talking to JD Vance, talking about all these fake foods they're trying to get to taste like meat when there are so many good vegetarian dishes that are out there. I mean, look at any Indian cookbook.
Yep.
And the really good meals that are hearty and good for you and really satisfy you and your palate and all that stuff. Open an Indian cookbook. It's not what we're having with this lab created stuff is putting a bunch of just crap in your body that it would have been better for you just to eat the damn burger.
Oh, I know, a lot better.
I mean, obviously I'm not actually a doctor. I just own Dr. Cool. But when I see a bunch of chemicals going in, probably what it's producing in your body is not awesome. I shouldn't take an advanced degree in chemistry to figure out what the hell's in your burger. Also, another thought for you, Ken, before we go to closing thoughts, another thought for you. American cheese is not cheese. It's processed cheese food. It's one of the reasons like Kraft singles, for the longest time, this is a long time ago that I was a checkout boy at a grocery store, but wick could only be used for cheese, so you couldn't use it for Kraft singles because it's not cheese. So you'd have to throw out America's favorite cheese, which I'm not a big fan of, but of Kraft singles, they'd have to leave the dairy section. So anyway, as we're winding down, you have any closing thoughts, Ken?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. All hail to the boss of Twitter. He is hilarious. So after last week, we talked about big balls. Elon, at least for a day, changed his name to Harry Balls. HARRYBOLZ. I think it's just one L. And of course, because he owns Twitter, he got to keep his check mark. You cannot out-tweet Musk. You just can't. I mean, he owns the platform, and people are trying to out-tweet him. No, that's just stupid. It's not going to happen. So, on that happy bit of news, big thank you to Eric Cumby, our editor, who takes our awful audio and turns it into something you can listen to. Big thanks to Ken Poland. And I want to thank everyone for listening. Like and share us on the platforms. Have a great week.
Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. Try to catch me howling at the moon.